My name is Denise Bossert, and I am a pastoral care coordinator and publications coordinator at the Coming Home Network. And in doing that and wearing those two hats, I've been able to walk with a lot of people who are on their journey into the church or who have already come into the church. And I think the common denominator in most of those stories, those conversion stories, is their obstacle is Mary. They struggled somehow with who Mary is, because for the most part, Mary was not part of their faith formation, or maybe even part of their faith formation was that, to be anti-Catholic, which mostly means to be also anti-Mary, and only having Mary be part of, really even a small part of the Christmas story. But at some point in each of those journeys, they come to a place where they invite Mary to walk with them on their faith journey and to have it become a pilgrimage with Mary. And that is a great grace to have that restored, because really I think that Mary was collateral damage in the Protestant Reformation, that she became the thing that really defined whether someone was Catholic or whether they were Protestant. And so they come to a place where they realize they need to reclaim her, and they need to have a place for her. And once they do that, it starts this personal journey with her, but also they start to want to study and read. And that certainly was the case for me. This whole walking with Mary and trying to find out more about her. And there are a lot of contemporary Catholic writers who write about Mary. But I think some of my favorite books on Mary are much older as well. So there's a great book called Read of God by Carolyn Houselander. And you also have books by Archbishop Fulton Sheen on her. And then really like the one that's the most difficult that I would kind of save as one of the last ones is St. Louis de Montfort's book, True Devotion. But as I was trying to think about this recording, I remembered two books that I read that were particularly meaningful to me. And one was by a French man by the name of Louis Bouillet. And he, interestingly enough, for those of us who work at the Coming Home Network, he's a convert. He was a convert. He was a Lutheran pastor who became a Catholic priest. And some interesting things that he had to say about Mary is that she is the human, she gives us the human face and the human understanding of what holiness should look like. And that she is not merely a prototype of the church. She's not merely a prefigurement of the church. She's the archetype of the church. And as one who studied language, I just find it interesting that the words also for church are feminine. So you have ecclesia, and in Spanish, iglesia. And so Christ takes up residence, in the tabernacle in the church. And so it's just kind of meaningful to me that it's the feminine dimension. And even the soul in those Romance languages, the soul is feminine. So Christ takes up residence in the human soul. So you have the Alma, right? And there's another book that was also meaningful to me, and I pull it off the shelf and I read it even to this day, and it's called Mary, the Church at the Source, and it's written by two authors, and you'll probably recognize their names, at least one. It's Cardinal Ratzinger, Pope Benedict XVI, and also Hans Urs von Balthasar. And in that book, they take this idea of the feminine dimension of the church, And they lay the groundwork where they say, oh, you have Adam in the Old Covenant through salvation history, all of these patriarchs that become prefigurements for Christ, who is the new Adam. And then also ushers in the apostolic line, which is the patriarchal line. But goes on to say in this book, Mary, the Church at the Source, that you have Eve in the Old Covenant, and that entire line of matriarchs in salvation history culminating in this woman, Mary, who is, the final culmination and climax to salvation history. She is daughter Zion. And so she then becomes the archetype for the church, who is the bride of Christ. So then you see the feminine dimension of the faith. There are just some incredible things that you can learn, when you study, when you read. So you there's this trajectory. You start out making a little space for the possibility of who Mary is. And you maybe begin by making a little space by reading the first chapter of Luke and really realizing that Archangel Gabriel gives her the name full of grace. Can I say those words? Can I say full of grace? Mary, you are full of grace. And then Elizabeth, who says, blessed are you among women. Can I say that, Mary, you are blessed among women, without choking on it, right? And can I say what Mary says of herself, that all generations will call me blessed? And then we think about the fact that Jesus, who is God, gives us the 10 commandments, and the fourth commandment is honor your father and mother. And then from the cross, he gives us Mary as our mother. I worked for a while for Israel Ministry of Tourism, and I learned a little bit about what Israeli Jews believe and their faith. And some of those things have real parallels to Marian theology. And one of them is that the Jewish people, if their mother is Jewish, they are Jewish. That they inherit that religion, that faith from their mothers. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Jesus from the cross gives the apostles and gives all disciples and gives the entire church this mother that is his mother, so that we as adopted sons and daughters, we inherit this faith by way of our mother. So we go through this trajectory, I think, as converts of making some space, maybe finding a little bit of grounding in Scripture that we can then move along and even start to realize that that's not an odd thing to have pieces in sacred Scripture and then expand upon it, because the Trinity is that way. The word Trinity is not in Scripture. In the full development of who the Trinity is, one God, three persons, Jesus having two natures, that's not spelled out in Scripture. So we start to be comfortable with the reality of who Mary is, with these bits and pieces that we find in Scripture, and then the full fleshing out by way of the church in time. And we do that then by reading some of these wonderful authors, and we start to fall in love with the things that we're learning about her. And then I think we start to come to the final place. And this is a place where we can continue to grow and grow and grow. And that is, Mary is my mother. She knows me. She loves me. She hears me when I pray. She takes my petitions that maybe I even weep over, the ones that are just hurt our hearts the most, that we want to give to her and entrust to her. And that she wants to do that. She's like a mother. She wants to know when our heart is hurting. She wants to know those things that cause us anxiety. those things that maybe are even coming between us and God. She wants to know what those things are so she can intercede for us. And I think that takes me to really my last thought. It might even be the most profound, and that is that the biggest petition that we can give to her is our sanctification, our path to holiness, our culmination of our life to sainthood. Because one of the things we learn as a convert is that it's not a matter of just assuming that we're going to make it to heaven, that is a sin of presumption. And I'm even tearing up as I think about it, because it's been one of the hardest things about becoming Catholic is letting go of the, I know Jesus is going to take me to heaven if I die tonight. It's more a matter of trusting in his mercy and my giving my yes to the graces that I receive. And who better to trust that journey to than the mother of all graces, my mother, the mother of the faith, the mother of the church, the mother who wants me to turn to her and say, help me out here, because this is my biggest hope. So many of the writers have said, the biggest tragedy in this life is to not become a saint. So that's my last greatest petition that I give Our Lady.